So in one of my previous videos I talked about vintage stockings, but in this video I want to talk about specifically vintage shoes, retro shoes, because you might not realize this, but shoes between 40s and 50s, which is what I'll mainly be focusing on, were quite a bit different compared to today's shoes. First I want to point out that there's a pretty significant change between women's shoes in the 40s and then moving into the 50s. So starting in the 40s, women's shoes were, well, first of all, they had high heels, which were about 2 to 3 inches, and then shoes that looked more like these, kind of Oxford looking shoes. These are from Memory Shoes, by the way. I did a review on this previously. The main difference is that, well, let me grab this again. These shoes are mainly for daytime wear, the working woman, nurses, things like that, because of this really thick heel. See this heel? This is a serious heel. You're not gonna break your ankle, you're not gonna roll your ankle and fall into the street, you're not gonna do anything, because this is sturdy enough to last many years, and this is why this was a very popular type of shoe for the average woman, especially the working woman, that sort of thing. The other type of heel that was more for not working, really, more just going out, maybe you go get the groceries or maybe you're going to the movies or something. High heel, but it was a chunky heel. It was not a stiletto heel. Those were not popular really yet. Mainly not too high. Again, 2 to 3 inches high, nothing crazy. And they come in a many variety of colors, styles, all that. But the toe box was usually a little bit rounded for that unique sort of look. And of course, all those shoes were leather, but most of the time. Sometimes reptile skin, but 99% of the time leather, Then moving into the 1950s, there was a different type of shoe. The narrower heel came into fashion, and this type of shoe was no longer popular. So it kind of remained popular for the first part of the 1950s, like the first few years, but it quickly kind of went out of fashion, and it remained. People in the nursing industry, in the working industry, and older women would continue to wear this, but the hip young people of that time kind of ditched these. Instead, they moved on to something that's more like this. So I got this from Amazon, link in the description for that. This is one of my favorite shoes. I only have 3 pairs of shoes. This one, and tennis shoes. So I'm pretty picky with what I pick for my shoes. I like this shoe quite a lot because, well, first, many reasons. I bought this because I was looking for a vintage style shoe, specifically 1950s looking sort of shoe, and they're kind of hard to find. If you type in high heels on Amazon or any other shoe store, you'll notice that they look quite a bit different from this, and the main difference is this heel. See this heel? I'll put on some diagrams of what 1950s high heels usually look like. And if you notice, they all have that inward curve of the heel. The heel goes inwards, like this. Modern shoes, high heels, I didn't realize this until I actually started looking. Modern high heels just go straight down. Most of them just go straight down. And usually they're quite a bit thinner than this, the more stiletto heel. That's fine. I kind of prefer, though, this curve. I think it's a very elegant curve. But anyway, my point here is that the shape of the shoe in the 1950s changed from the 1940s. Again, getting rid of the chunky heel. The high heel was no longer chunky, but instead more like this. Not quite a stiletto heel still, but thinner than it was in the past. And also, this is about a almost 3-inch heel, like a couple millimeters off. But this is very, very close to what a 1950s high heel typically would have looked like. This has a pointed toe. They didn't all have pointed toes, but it was a pretty popular look back then. And also, the 1950s is when the stiletto heel started becoming popular for the first time. Now, interestingly, the height of the high heel was not all that tall. Usually advertisements made them look very tall, but almost never would a woman's shoe go higher than 3 inches like this. And of course, these days, this is a short pump, people wearing 6-inch heels, 7-inch heels, whatever people wear. I can't dare to go beyond this because I feel like it would be the end of me if I tried to wear something higher than this. But this, waving it around like a tool now, but the thing about the 1950s is that it was really about the style. Women often foregoed the comforts of regular shoes to wear something like this all the time, most of the time. Even a lot of times, housewives would wear heels inside, cleaning their house, cooking, even if there was no one over, just wearing them at house, like slippers, except they're wearing these. So they were very, very popular. You pretty much had to wear something like this. You didn't have to wear it, but kind of like some sort of popular trend these days. You gotta wear it. But the other thing also, the other type of shoe that was very popular were flats. Flats, however, were kind of reserved either for extremely casual settings, like you were having your friends over for a little get-together at your house, or for teenagers. Because teenagers, the fashion industry assumed they had no sense of style, so they just take these, don't think about them. There were also Mary Janes, which were popular among teenagers, which are also flats, but they had a little strap across the front of the shoe, which again was you don't know how to wear proper shoes yet, so you need this little strap around your shoe to keep it on. But there was definitely a transition between teenage fashion for women and then women's fashion. Usually they would ditch the flats, go for something like this, style their hair differently, that sort of thing. So the thing also, and of course on occasion there would be a few different types of styles out there. For example, there were some Oxford style shoes which were black and white, and these days they're kind of made fun of as a type of costumey looking shoe, but back in the day they were very popular among teenagers specifically. Grown women would not wear those shoes, but teenagers were very excited about these types of shoes, and they would have to be pretty meticulous about taking care of them because that white leather would get dirty pretty easily. So they would actually carry either a rag or actually some chalk to make sure that white part of the shoe is really, really white. So it gets that nice contrast. But there were also strapless mules, which were not usually worn in public, really. They were usually worn in the house. But they were unique because they had no straps for your heel. Instead, they had this unique curve, which allowed your toes to get kind of wedged into the shoe, so, it wouldn't come loose. 99% of the time, shoes were always meant to be worn with stockings, vintage stockings. Only in rare occasions on exceptionally hot days would a woman not wear stockings. Because, as I said in one of my previous videos, stockings back then were pretty much like underwear. If you're not wearing underwear, there's something wrong, something is not right here. And nearing the end of the 1950s, that shoe style kind of remained the same. Then moving into the early 1960s, then the kitten heel became a bit more popular, which is, of course, a lot shorter. And that was, 2 inches, maybe less than 2 inches. Definitely going down from the typical 3 inches, sometimes 4 inches, but not usually. So that was kind of the timeline, moving from the 40s, 50s into the early 60s, that sort of thing. Another big difference, of course, is the shoe size. When I was interested in getting a sort of 1950s style shoe, like this one that I mentioned, I went on eBay, I started looking around for authentic ones, real ones, from the 1950s. The problem is, I have size 9.5 feet, which is quite a bit larger than what most women wore at the time, which is pretty small considering today. Like size 5, size 6, you know, very small. So as you can imagine, it was pretty much impossible for me to find an authentic vintage shoe, which is why I got this and why I got the other one. But this is a problem that most people have these days, unless you have unusually small feet. But it's also a reason why there are more reproduction shoes, like, well, more like this one. This is an authentic reproduction. This, I actually don't think the brand specifically was going for a vintage style. They just kind of look like this, which is lucky for me. But in general, that's pretty much all my main points about vintage shoes for women. If you thought this video was interesting, or if you liked it at all, of course you can leave a like, maybe subscribe, leave a comment if you have anything to say. And I make videos throughout the week, so stick around for that.